What if the real monster isn't the one with scars and stitches, but the father who refuses to love his own creation? Del Toro's 2025 Frankenstein isn't about science gone wrong. It's about something far more terrifying. What happens when a parent sees their child as a disappointment? And by the end of this video, you'll never see Victor Frankenstein the same way again. Before we dive in, here's something that will blow your mind about this movie. Del Toro didn't want to make a horror film. He wanted to make a biography, a family drama wrapped in lightning and corpses. And when you understand why Victor creates the creature, and more importantly, why he abandons him, you'll realize this isn't a story about playing God. It's a story about generational trauma. It's about a man so damaged by his own father that he becomes the very monster he feared. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with the moment everything goes wrong. Why does Victor Frankenstein create life in the first place? Most people think it's about ambition, about scientific ego, about conquering death. But Del Toro shows us something much darker. In this version, Victor's father is Baron Leopold Frankenstein, a renowned physician, a man of science, but also someone who's described as strict and oppressive. And here's the key psychological detail. Victor doesn't create the creature to prove science is possible. He creates it to prove his father wrong. Think about it. Victor grows up in the shadow of this accomplished medical father who likely never showed him approval, never gave him the validation he craved. So what does Victor do? He goes beyond medicine. He doesn't just heal the living, he brings back the dead. But here's where the psychology gets really twisted. The moment Victor succeeds, the moment his creation opens its eyes, Victor is horrified, not by what he's made, but by what he sees. He sees himself. He sees his own inadequacy reflected back at him. And just like his father probably did to him, Victor rejects his creation. And this is where the film's most brilliant psychological insight comes in. But to understand it, we need to talk about what happens when the creature tries to find love. Stay with me, because this is where Del Toro goes from good to genius. Remember how I said this is a family drama? Here's the proof. Del Toro himself said, "In my movie, it is about the lineage of familial pain." Lineage, familial pain. He's not talking about lab experiments. He's talking about inherited trauma passing from father to son to son. Oscar Isaac, who plays Victor, described the film through what he called a very Latin American Mexican Catholic point of view, with high passion all the time. And if you know anything about Catholic guilt, about the weight of patriarchal expectations, about the concept of the disappointed father, you know exactly what Victor is experiencing. There are reports of Victor's relationship with Milk and how Elizabeth, his love interest, played by Mia Goth, looks exactly like his mother. Freud would have a field day. But more than that, it shows us that Victor has never escaped his childhood. He's recreating his family dynamics. He's trying to be the father he never had, but he only knows how to be the father he did have, the abusive one. Now here's where Del Toro does something revolutionary. Unlike the 1931 Boris Karloff version where the creature grunts and groans, Jacob Elordi's creature is articulate. He's intelligent. He reads. He feels. He understands exactly what's been done to him. If you will not allow me love, then I will indulge in rage. That's not a monster speaking. That's a child who's been abandoned. That's someone who came into this world asking one question: will you love me? And when the answer is no. But here's what most people miss about this scene, and it's the key to understanding why Victor cannot love his creation. It has to do with mirrors, with reflection, and with one psychological concept that Del Toro weaves through every frame. Give me 30 more seconds. Okay, here's the big idea. The creature isn't Victor's opposite. The creature is Victor's mirror. Think about what Victor sees when he looks at the creature. A being he brought into the world without consent. A being shaped by his choices, his ambition. A being that will never be normal, never be accepted. A being that exists as proof of Victor's hubris. Now think about what Victor's father probably saw when he looked at Victor. A son he brought into the world without asking him. A son shaped by his expectations, his legacy. A son who will never live up to the family name. A son who exists as proof that Leopold's genetic legacy is flawed. Victor hates the creature because the creature reminds him of himself. And Victor hates himself because his father taught him to. This is what Del Toro means when he says it's about the lineage of familial pain. Trauma doesn't end with one generation. Victor's father traumatized Victor. Victor traumatizes the creature. And the creature, desperate for love, for acceptance, for anything resembling a connection, becomes violent. Not because he's a monster, but because he was taught to be one. Del Toro was raised very Catholic, and he said that when he first saw Boris Karloff's creature as a child, he thought, that's what a saint looks like. That's what a Messiah looks like. A being who suffers, who is rejected, who carries the sins of his creator, who is sacrificed because of someone else's ambition. The creature is Christ-like not in his virtue, but in his suffering. He's punished for the sin of existing. And Victor is the God who creates something, calls it good, then abandons it the moment it doesn't meet expectations. And this brings us to the most heartbreaking psychological element of the entire film. The one thing that makes this version of Frankenstein different from every other adaptation. It's about what the creature wants at the end. Here's a question the film asks that most Frankenstein movies ignore. What happens when the monster wants to die? Not revenge, not acceptance, not even love anymore. Just peace. Del Toro's film is described as an incredibly emotional story, and reviews keep using phrases like heartbreaking, tragic, finding the humanity in the monster. One review literally asks, few monster movies ever ask, what happens when the monster wants to die? This is the psychology of profound depression, of suicidal ideation, of someone who looks at their existence and thinks, I didn't ask for this, I don't want this, and the person who forced this upon me won't even acknowledge me. And Victor, he knows. On some level, he knows what he's done. He knows he's created a being capable of love and then denied him that love. He knows he's become his father. But here's the psychological trap. Acknowledging that would mean acknowledging his own pain, his own trauma, his own damaged relationship with his father. So instead, Victor does what trauma survivors often do. He doubles down. He rejects the creature harder. He hunts him. He calls him the monster. Because if the creature is the monster, then Victor isn't. If the creature is wrong, then Victor is right. It's projection. It's psychological self-preservation. And it's incredibly, tragically human. The film ends in the Arctic, Victor pursuing the creature to the literal ends of the earth. Not to save him, not to apologize, but to finish what he started. And the creature, he's not running away. He's leading Victor to a place where they can both finally end this. That's not horror. That's mutual destruction. That's two people so damaged by their relationship that death seems like the only resolution. So let's go back to the question I asked at the beginning. What if the real monster isn't the one with scars and stitches, but the father who refuses to love his own creation? Del Toro's answer is clear. They're both monsters, and they're both victims. Victor is a monster because he creates life and then abandons it. But he's also a victim of his own father's cruelty. The creature is a monster because he kills innocent people in his rage, but he's also a victim of rejection and isolation. This is what makes Del Toro's Frankenstein so powerful. It's not about science gone wrong. It's about parents and children. It's about how pain passes from one generation to the next. It's about asking for love and being denied. And it's about what happens when the thing you create looks back at you and asks the one question you can't answer. Why did you make me if you were never going to love me? If that question hits differently now, good. That means Del Toro did his job. Thanks for watching. If you want to go deeper into the creature's perspective and understand why he ultimately chooses death over revenge, That's what video 2 is all about. I'll see you there.